Hey, it's Candy. Did you know that I have a quiz to help coaches choose their niche? Yeah, I do. It's super popular and it has been taken more than 20,000 times. This is a fun quiz that takes you about 2 minutes to do, and it will probably give you way more clarity on choosing your best coaching niche. So now, whether you say niche or niche, it's going to work for you. And if you're a coach and you have been stuck in niche indecision, wondering what to do, then you should take my quiz and find out what you learn. You can take the quiz today at coachnichequiz.com. That's coachnichequiz.com. Okay, let's dive into this week's episode. Welcome to She Coaches Coaches. I'm your host, Candy Motzek, and I'm going to help you find the clarity, confidence, and courage to become the coach that you are meant to be. If you're a new coach, or if you've always wanted to be a life coach, then this is the place for you. We're going to talk all about mindset and strategies and how to, because step by step only works when you have the clarity, courage, and confidence to take action. Let's get started. Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of She Coaches Coaches. I am so glad you're here. I'm going to tell you, today it is hot summertime. Now, for us, it's going to go up to 30 degrees, and that is 30 degrees Celsius. So I'm not sure exactly what that works out to in the States, but up here in Canada, that is super, super hot. So think of me here in my she shed recording this wonderful interview and knowing that it's going to be really hot. So you might hear me sweating if you can hear such a thing. Anyway, I'm glad you're here. And let me tell you about my special guest that I have today. Her name is Latosha Cox. She is a skilled facilitator, trainer, public speaker, and DEI practitioner and mental health advocate who always leads with authenticity and vulnerability. She brings a wealth of knowledge and lived experiences from working in various capacities and roles in nonprofit, philanthropy, education, and finances. Her previous role was in the nonprofit sector as the Director of Learning and Leadership. Tasha launched her coaching, consulting, and training business, and it's called Black Girl Sabbatical in 2023 after embarking on an 18-month healing and self-discovery journey of prioritizing her mental health and well-being and participating in experiences that brought her joy. As a leadership development and transition coach, Tasha loves to support people and organizations' holistic wellness so that we can all continue to do the work that we have been called to do. She believes women do not need to suffer in marriages, through domestic violence, relationships, in their careers, and more. Tasha, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so glad to be here. I am joining you. My home base is in Minnesota, and I'm born and raised there 42 years. But right now, I'm currently in Chicago on a little away from home vacation, and it's 76 degrees out. So I've been here quite a few days, and it's not today's the least hottest of all the days. I
Cool.
still wore my sunscreen, my Black Girl
You
sunscreen.
got it. Yeah, we always got to. Makes me think that so often, one of the reasons that I often talk about, the temperature or the weather at the start of the show is then there's going to be people who are in the deep cold in the middle of January listening to this episode. And I just want them to remember that it's going to get warm again, right?
Right.
Yeah. So you've got this name, Black Girl Sabbatical. And the first time that I encountered you on LinkedIn, it really made me look at it and go, huh, that's super interesting. Can you tell us more about how that came to be? I'd love to hear more about that.
Well, when I left my director job 3 years ago, actually, it was July 1st of 2021. I've always been a worker bee, right? And it's the first time in my life that I went on a pause. I was 39 years old. I have two daughters. They're now 17 and 9. And so much of who we are is trapped up by our identity of where we work, right? So I'm used to, saying I'm Latosha Cox, I'm the director of learning and leadership at Wooty Wooty Woo, right? I'm Latosha Cox. I'm this and that at the McKnight Foundation, right? And philanthropy. Like it's always tied to that. And so when I went on this break, um, I said, I'm just on a break. And then break didn't sound fun, right? Or cool, right? So then I was like, I'm on a sabbatical, right? And sabbatical, you hear that term in higher education,
Mhm.
right? And then it turned into a Black Girl Sabbatical. And then I met with a LinkedIn coach that my friend referred me to because I'm like, now what I do? And my friend KJ in the Bay area in Oakland, she was like, you should consider meeting up with her, revamping your LinkedIn if you're going to be open to work or whatever you're going to do. So I met with her and I told her I'm on a Black Girl Sabbatical. And she's like, what is that? And I was like, I don't know. I'm on a break. I just called it, that. And she's like, I'm gonna need you to define it. And I was like, well, I'm on this healing and self-discovery journey. And then I'm all like, for what though? So then I'm on this self-discovery and healing journey to what am I gonna do on the journey? To prioritize my mental health and well-being and what else? And embrace joy. So that is how she was the one who encouraged me to define what I was doing. And then I didn't know that I became part of a movement.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it's especially in this word joy that's so important. Because, first, as grown women who have kids and responsibilities and life and bills and all the things, it's
Yeah.
really easy to forget that that is one of the big purposes of life.
Yeah.
When we feel joy, isn't that the thing that reminds you why you're alive? Right?
That part.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
That
what was it like to make that connection?
um it was great to feel that, connection, right? Because previously I had the hashtag of like Joy Fairy Chronicles, Joy Fairy. The summer before in 2020, I was supposed to do like 30 days of joy, right? Because that year before I was overworked, underpaid, short staffed, right? And so I was like, okay, I have to get through this summer and I want to have joy every day. It's going to be long days every day. Every day is going to be like 10, 14 hours days. It's really unfortunate, but I want to have fun. I have two children and I want them to have fun, right? So that's where the joy even started, right? And so I was like, oh, I'm gonna do 30 days of joy. So I packed up a bag and I put all kind of fun things in it, from remote control cars for my, daughter to chalk, to bubbles, right? To all kinds of fun things, our swim stuff to keep it in the car, and whenever I needed a break or we needed a break, let's go in the fun bag and do all these different things. And so like 30 days of joy, right, turned into like 76 days or something like that. Like it kept going. So in all of June, all of July, all of, August, now we're in September, right? And everybody's following along. And it only made sense that when I created my title, that I also was unique, right?
Hmm.
Like Black Girl Sabbatical is my alter ego, right? And it's very catchy. All right. And so my title is Curator of Joy. I
Mm.
create joy wherever I go in all of
So,
my
when you work with your clients, do you give them a 30-day joy challenge to
I
accomplish?
I have done that. I
Yeah.
absolutely have done that as one of my tricks under my, sleeve, right? Um, as well as gratitude. I talked about gratitude today in my Instagram post, right? But those things to kind of keep you on the positive of life, because life gets tough and
Hmm.
life's even tougher for Black women.
Yeah, sorry, a whole big breath there to go with that thought. And I wish it wasn't going to get tougher, but tougher for lots of people. Um, feels like we should be on the upswing, but I know that in lots of areas we're not. So I have a thought. Just a sec. And so Tasha, just like I said, this is being done in one take. If my brain kind of fizzles out for a minute while I catch my thought, we listen to that on the podcast too. I want people to know that it's just us having a conversation.
Yeah.
There's something here with this 30 days of joy. It feels like it's a book, it's a journal, it's a program, it's all kinds of things. No matter what's happening on the outside, and believe me, with all of the changes in government and policy and approaches and corporate policies and all of that, we can still choose our experience, right? And I just have a feeling that that's like an amazing gift that any woman could give herself. Just that gift of I can do that. It's for me. It's my gift for me.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you say that because I'm actually working on some series of journals.
Okay.
Right. And so one of them is on joy. The other one, is on radical self-love.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So there's a whole little series
Cool.
of
Okay,
journals
good. I'm glad I heard that. You didn't
that
say
I'm
it, but I was like, this is a thing. This is a real thing, right?
yeah, nope, that I'm gonna publish on Amazon. A friend of mine, Nicole Pansini, does journals, and I took her master class, and she was like my coach on having that completed. So that's on my list of summertime work things to work out and launch
Mm,
to help support my coaching clients, but also, women across the world, right?
yeah, yeah. So there's the connection between Black women getting enough rest, having enough space to create a whole life that doesn't include all of the, you know, inequality in policies and pay and opportunity and all of these things.
Mhm.
How do you incorporate Black Girl Sabbatical into your coaching with your clients? Like, is there a particular something that you do?
Well, with a lot of my coaching clients, like I said, I'm a leadership development and transition coach. So my coaching clients are Black women um, who are in some level of transition, right? Some level of if they're a W-2 employee and they have a gig on the side as an entrepreneur and they eventually want to um, transition to be a full-time entrepreneur, which is what I did. Right? Or if they're trying to leave out of a relationship, or if they're trying to leave out of exit strategy, right, from their toxic job, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or trying to go up the corporate ladder for the next job, right? And so I just really pride myself as a coach is that I prioritize the human being over the human doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As a
Yeah.
coach, there's homework and different things and tools and resources that we provide and so forth. But I really pride myself on how is the human doing? I mean, how is the human being doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And so like I start my coaching calls off with icebreaker questions such as what's bringing you joy today? I do that for my coaching calls. I do that for a lot of my virtual or in-person workshops. What's bringing you joy today? For some people, it's hard. They may have to answer at the end. Some people, it's as small as I woke up and went on a walk. I grabbed tea today, right? And so I want always, and I always, too, I ask, like, what are you coming in with today? They'll give me like one word. I'm coming in with anxiety. I'm coming with stress, whatever it is. So that I set the tone as to, I know that they're stressed as we're talking about whatever, whatnot. I know that they're worried. I know they're angry about whatever, this and that didn't happen in their life. And the last thing I ask them is, what's one word to describe where you're at right now? Because we
Mm-hmm.
started off, if you were stressed and angry, I don't want to end the call with you stressed and angry. And if you are stressed and angry, how can I support that?
Right. Right. Yeah. And so do you also end with, and what joy are you taking away?
I do. Or
Yeah.
what's going to fill you with the joy like this weekend?
Yeah. There's something about the awareness of it, right? Like once you kind of click into the idea that it's an inside job to
Yep.
create a to feel joy, and that means that no matter what's going on in the outside, we can still curate that inside experience. And I
Yes.
also really appreciate your focus on emotion,
Yeah.
because that's the place that Black women specifically, I mean, society as a whole, but Black women specifically, there's not a lot of allowance for emotion, right? We have
No.
so much code switching. We have so many ways that we have to show up a certain way so somebody doesn't think that we're angry or aggressive or whatever, right? But to actually allow people to feel their emotion and just to have that experience, that's really powerful. I bet your clients love it.
Well, they do. That's why they all have written LinkedIn recommendations, for me, right? And
Yeah.
so, um, but what I've like as a coach, us as coaches, we have to figure out what our niche is, who our target audience is, right? And what sets us apart to be different from the next Black coach, the next white coach, the next Asian Hmong coach, right?
Mhm.
And the other thing that I just really, really, care about is my coaching client leaving better than they came with me. Right? And allowing that space, one of the things that I realized that in a previous job, I had someone write me a letter, an educator. My background also was in education. And after my term contract was over with this opportunity, the teacher, the special ed teacher, she's all like, can I write you a letter of recommendation? And I'm all like, I'm way past college. Like, people write recommendations,
Yeah.
right? So I mentioned that to the supervisor of the program that I was in, and she was like, "Yeah, you better get that letter of recommendation." And recommendations are timeless. So she puts a date on it, remove the date off of it. And I was like, "What?" And so I circled back to her and I asked, like, "Hey, let's get that letter of recommendation." And so the McKnight Foundation wanted 3 references. I gave them 6. Plus, I gave them that written letter of recommendation. And what she said was that Tasha does a really great job of meeting the students where they're at. And they were special ed students,
Right.
right? They got it like a level 3 school of 4, like behavioral. And she said, and she always left us with a laugh, right? And so I had no idea that me working with them for like 10 months, that this is how she saw me.
Hmm.
And that's how you know, um, I saw myself,
Yeah.
right? So I really pride myself on meeting my clients where they're at, right? And so I've had executive leadership coach. I also had a Black Girl Sabbatical coach during my 18 months to help me be accountable and do the things that I said that I was going to do, right? Because if you don't have a coach, you just are just out here living life just loosely,
Yeah. Yeah.
and in that space, just to, if my coaching client wants to have their camera off, they have their camera off. If they want to walk during our call instead of a Zoom, we'll do that. If they want to meet up, we'll meet up. A couple of times my coaching client, she's hungry in between. We're both hungry in between. We would both turn off the camera so we're not,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I've been there where you eat through your lunch. I mean, you work
Mhm.
through your lunch.
Oh yeah.
Go
Yeah.
ahead,
Yeah.
bring your food, arrive a little bit late. I could be flexible, kind of depends on what's going on, right? Because I'm meeting you where you're at. And I really wished, I think, with one of my coaches that there was more flexibility like that. But
Mm-hmm.
that's what's needed as a Black woman. It's not to show that we're not, um, we don't value your time or that our coaching stuff isn't important. It's just that life is lifing and we just need to receive a little bit of grace.
You said so. I agree. That's really important. You said something about I always meet my client where they're at, and I really heard that. The other thing that I really heard, but I didn't hear you exactly say it, is not only do you meet them where they're at, but you see them for who they are in their strengths
Yeah,
and reflect that back to them. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because with my contract with Led by Truth, I have worked with entrepreneurs, Black women entrepreneurs, right? And so I've always in all of my jobs been a process improvement specialist, which means if I see there's another way to do it more efficient, that is what I suggest. And in all of my jobs, I've gotten rewarded, for thinking outside the box, right? So one of the things I really like with working with Black entrepreneurs, especially the ones that are transitioning, right, is I come from a background from being super organized and from systems. I come from
I
systems.
couldn't have imagined that anybody who does the PIP thing can't ever be organized.
Right? So I come from systems, right? And so that's one of my main strengths as a coach is creating systems, coming from policies and procedures, right? And so I am thinking outside the box and seeing, okay, your strength is this. I know this about social media. Hey, I know this person, I'm a master connector as well. You should consider following this person. You should consider connecting with that person. And so that really helps my clients when I see them and that they see me and them.
Mm-hmm.
Just I think
Mm-hmm.
the most important part is that I'm human.
Yeah. Yeah. I have one something that I wanted to ask, and it's a slightly different topic. So just wanting to make sure that we're okay to go there. I just wanted to hear a little bit more about how you approached your burnout recovery. And before you do that, for the listeners, I want you guys to really hear this, right? Tasha is a longtime coach, longtime leader. Coaches get coached, right? And it's not that it doesn't it's not that you have to choose a specific coach. She's had multiple coaches for different areas in her life. That's how we move forward. And it's also one of the things that we don't talk about a lot. Like it's not about the investment in a coach, but it's about how you grow as a coach and as an individual when you are being coached. Yes, we do our coach training. Yes, we do our practicum. Yes, we work on our hours. But when we're being coached, we hear it different and we can really appreciate our own growth. And that helps us to appreciate our clients, and it helps us to upgrade our skills and upgrade our capabilities as a coach. So this whole thing about coaches need coaches is a big deal. And I just wanted to reflect that back to what you heard Tasha say, right? Am I right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm a Black woman who believes there's two things that we need in our life, a Black therapist and a Black coach,
Yes.
right? I'm also a Black woman who I preach what I practice. Right? Just with right now, me sharing that I'm on my, social media, right, that I'm in Chicago. I needed to retreat. When
Yeah.
we booked this, this podcast, that was not on my agenda, right? But my mind, body, and soul said, I need a retreat, right? And to listen to that. But I reached burnout unexpectedly. Um, I left my previous W-2 job after 13 months,
Mm.
which says a lot for a worker bee.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as a Black woman, because we don't leave jobs without another job lined up. And I have a whole mortgage and student loans like everybody else, and children and mouths to feed. Um, but what I just knew is that the life that I was living or being a part of wasn't it.
Mm.
I think I knew what thriving was. Previously, I was in philanthropy at the McKnight Foundation. I was there for 3 years. I was, one of 5 Black people in an organization that had like 50, 55 employees. Um, I landed there out of 156 applicants, right? I brought my A game to arrive there at a place that was very competitive, that most people had masters and PhDs, and all I just had was a bachelor's degree, right? But I brought my A game to the 10th power, right? To the 10th power, because I was also in transition. I was separated from my husband, from my ex-husband, now my ex-husband, but separated from my life partner. I had two children that were 10 and 2 when I
Mm.
made that decision, right? That the marriage was not working. And how you read in my bio is that I don't believe in any woman suffering, especially Black women. And so the marriage wasn't working. So we had to throw that in the trash. And so I have been in a place where I've thrived in that 3 years. And I had a Black executive leadership development coach that the McKnight Foundation paid $5,000 a year annually from my professional development funds to develop the Black woman leader that I am today. I went through a separation and divorce in that 3 years and thrived. To
Mm.
get to the next place,
Mm-hmm.
to not, right? I know what thriving feels like as a Black
Yeah.
woman.
So to go from top performer,
Yep.
A game to the power 10 with all the support and up in your leadership game while going through challenges and still thriving to something else. And that's where the burnout really came through, right?
That's where the burnout came through. And I think it's like the icing on the cake, right? And so because the burnout just wasn't from the 13 months. It's from the 39 years of being a Black woman navigating white dominant culture, going
Mm-hmm.
into a private white college, right? Like living in Minnesota where it's white, white, double white, right? My neighborhood is, in the suburb is really white. And so it was 39 years of just navigating being a Black woman in white society.
It's got this, it kind of reminds me of the metaphor of watching the river flowing down a rock canyon. And, the rock does get worn down. Like it can be a lot of water over a long time, but eventually the rock still wears down. When
Yeah.
I think of burnout, I think that it's comes with that word too, TOO. Too much, maybe too much doing, too much stress, not like too much of everything for
Yeah.
too long,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Yeah. So what was the first thing? Maybe not. Well, I don't know if it's the first thing. Maybe the first thing, or maybe the first important thing that you did on the road to recovery.
Ooh. Um, I asked my ex-husband to move back into our house so that he can father
Wow.
because I couldn't mother.
Yeah, that's huge.
That
And
was,
the love of your children, your children's lives were more important. Yeah.
Mhm.
You guys must have a pretty special relationship.
We actually do. We just celebrated our 5-year divorcee last month in June.
I love it. Hey,
And he's
there's
been
not
like,
many
oh my,
people that can say that. Not
right? And,
many people can
and
say
they're
that.
like, what? So I made it up just like I made up the Black Girl Sabbatical,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
it's the first anniversary. We co-parent really well for the last 4 years, where we had to arrive to this place. I talk about it on my social media. Right? I'm writing 2 books, but the first book is Life After Divorce, Be Better, Not Bitter.
Mm.
Right? And so when I called him that I quit the job, he was quiet. And then I'm like, aren't you gonna say something? Right? And then he goes, I thought you Ben was gonna quit that job, Tasha. I
Mm.
said, what? I didn't know that he was listening,
Oh, wow.
right? Because
Yeah.
when you're happy at your job, you're sharing happy things. What you're looking forward to.
Hmm.
But when you're not, I was a whole burnout and too much of everything makes you too tired, too exhausted, too crabby, right? And my daughter told my partner at the time, I missed when my mom worked at McKnight.
Mm. Yeah.
And I was like, oh. So you recognize I'm a different kind of mom. I'm horrible.
Yeah.
I'm a tornado.
Hmm. So that was the first like big thing on the
Yeah.
road to healing.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I know the healing journey from burnout takes time. Like it's
Yeah.
not something that you just kind of, 6 weeks and you're good. You
Yeah.
got months and months and months. What kind of practices have you put in place to stay healthy?
Main thing is boundaries.
Mm,
Right? So I'm right now writing my second book, my Eat, Pray, Love version of my Black Girl Sabbatical, 18 months, right? But it took 120 therapy sessions to arrive there. And
mm,
I just started writing that book in January this year, right? And I'm going to talk about the journey, the different tools and tricks that I use, right? As what kind of systems that I had to put in place to go from a season of rest for 18 months to go to full-time entrepreneurship, right? So that I also don't burn out in entrepreneurship, which I did last summer, right? So this summer it's year two, which is really year three, but especially year two of full-time entrepreneurship. Like, no, we're gonna do things differently. We're going to recognize certain things, ahead of time. So a lot of things is boundaries. I don't have meetings on Mondays. Mondays is to set myself up for the week. If I do have a meeting on a Monday, it's because I chose to have that meeting on the Monday. Fridays, I don't have meetings there either. Fridays is my self-care day. So if I need Reiki, if I need a massage, if I need a therapist session, if I need to leave a stare out the window, I can stare out the window.
yeah. And then the third thing that I hear, again, you didn't quite say it, but there's this thing about giving yourself permission, right?
Yep.
Give yourself permission to listen to yourself. Like you said on the episode already, you realized you needed a break. And so you packed up your stuff and off you're on a break in Chicago, right?
Yep.
So the permission to listen to yourself and then to follow through.
It's the permission to give yourself that space and allow others to step up. We'll talk about that with my lead magnet, my free offer,
Yeah.
right? But as women, we need to allow others to step up for us.
Wow. Well, Tasha, I tell you, it feels like we could talk about this for forever.
Yep.
However, I like to keep these episodes pretty short.
No
I
worries.
have so appreciated the conversation, and it has been really eye opening. I've had my own experience with burnout. So there's some things that you've said that are a good reminder for me as well.
Yeah.
And I would love it. My audience, I'm sure there are people who were like, who is this person? I need to find out more about her. How can they find out more about you?
They can find me on Instagram
Okay.
under Black_Girl_Sabbatical. And I'm going to spell sabbatical because it trips everybody up every time. It's Sabbatical, sabbatical.
Awesome. So that's the best place. Check her out on Instagram, but I'll make sure to have the links in the show notes as well. So you can go and just click on those links and find out more about her and reach out to her. She's a really interesting person and she's always super supportive. She's great with conversation and just loves to be connected with people. Tasha, thank you so much for joining me. It's really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks so much. Okay, everyone. That's it for this week's episode. I hope you learned a lot and you take away some of those things that you learned and put them into practice in your life. Have a great week. Thanks again for listening today. Please hop on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. Also, I would love to hear from you. Did something that I say resonate? What else would you like to learn about? Click the link in the player and leave a comment on the post. This is going to give me great ideas for future episodes so I can help you best. Join me again next week for more coaching, support, and teaching to help you become the confident coach you are meant to be. Hey, it's Candy. Did you know that I have a quiz to help coaches choose their niche? Yeah, I do. It's super popular and it has been taken more than 20,000 times. This is a fun quiz that takes you about 2 minutes to do, and it will probably give you way more clarity on choosing your best coaching niche. So now, whether you say niche or niche, it's going to work for you. And if you're a coach and you have been stuck in niche indecision, wondering what to do, then you should take my quiz and find out what you learn. You can take the quiz today at coachnichequiz.com. That's coachnichequiz.com. Okay, let's dive into this week's episode.